Hi and welcome back to Piecing Online from the Summer Symposium here in Preston. This time I'm sitting with Clare Hart, who gave a presentation this afternoon on smart ways to use smartphones in business English teaching. So Clare, can you tell us, what was it about?
Well, I started off by looking at some of the strengths and weaknesses of mobile learning and using smartphones in business English specifically.
Okay, and can you tell us a little bit about your teaching context actually first?
Yes, I teach in company in southern Germany.
Right, and do many people have smartphones there?
I would say about 2/3.
Right, okay.
Around 2/3.
Right, and what are you mentioned, you spoke about the pros and the cons. What would you say the pros are?
Pros are definitely the fact that with mobile learning you can learn anytime, any place. You can do it when you're traveling to work. You can do it when you're sitting on the sofa at home, relaxing. There are no boundaries. It transcends the boundaries of the classroom. You can access a lot of different things and you have them all in one compact portal which you can hold in your hand.
Yep.
Those are the main advantages of it.
Okay, and what would you say then the cons are?
The cons are, of course, that not everyone has a smartphone, like I just said. Maybe around 60% of my learners have one.
Yeah.
So that's obviously a disadvantage. If you're trying to introduce it into the classroom, it's not always going to work. And another disadvantage could be lack of internet access, for example, if you want to do something on the smartphone with internet access, which requires internet access and you have one. Also, the technology is being constantly updated, so whatever phone you have or whatever iPad you have, soon there's going to be a newer version and you can't keep paying. Normally people can't keep paying for a newer, better version all the time.
Okay, yeah, I can totally imagine.
It's not feasible.
And you know, there are some people in some camps that see this whole M-learning thing with a certain amount of skepticism. Have you encountered that with any of your participants?
There is a little bit of skepticism from people who don't have a smartphone themselves, perhaps, and are not aware of the advantages of it. I think normally people who have the smartphones and use them sort of actively, and not just for calling, but they use apps or they use other functions on the phones, they tend to be more enthusiastic about M-learning. It tends to be people who don't have any contact or only have had a little bit of contact with smartphones who feel skeptical about it.
Right. And so what sort of things can you do with your learners, or can they do themselves? Like, can you give us a couple of examples, maybe, your favourites?
Well, in my workshop today, I suggested 4 different activities.
Right.
So I suggested, first of all, making a presentation using a range of media on a phone, and either presenting it on the phone itself, or connecting the phone to a computer which is connected to a projector, and doing it like that. And I also suggested exchanging emails using the phones, so that the emails are kind of in real time.
Yeah, so in class you mean?
Yeah, in class, as a substitute for computers, because there are not always 5 or 6 PCs available, but there may well be 5 or 6 smartphones available in a class.
That is a cool idea.
As long as you have internet access, of course.
Of course, okay, yeah, this is the limiting factor then in some cases.
But maybe even if you didn't have internet access, you could perhaps write an email on the phone, or write something on the phone, and then pass it on to someone else to look at instead, and sort of exchange in that way, rather than through the internet.
Right. And we heard this afternoon in Pete Sharma's plenary as well, or rather there was a question, an open question, does technology and potentially M-learning, is that going to mean the death of course books? What do you think about this?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I don't think that M-learning is really in conflict with coursebooks. I think the two can go together very well. And I think actually maybe the one needs the other to work effectively.
Right.
Like, the one, like, if you're talking about vocabulary building, there's some very effective things that you can do with vocabulary learning using apps or other online tools. But then the learners still need the basics of how strategies for learning vocabulary, which they can get from coursebooks. And from coursebooks they can also get the texts, the raw materials, from which they can practice vocabulary acquisition, building. So I don't think it necessarily precludes, I don't think they're in conflict with each other, coursebooks and learning. I think they can complement each other.
Right. And what would you say to teachers out there who maybe have just recently got a smartphone or they're thinking of getting one, to kind of urge them or point them maybe in this direction? Newbies, let's say.
Well, you mean practical tips, or
whatever you feel like, I would say.
I think that if they, in order to increase their enthusiasm for using smartphones, they should really think about how much more prevalent smartphones will be in the future than they are now.
Right.
At the moment, a lot of people have smartphones, but in the future there will be even more people who do, and it will become even more significant in business English teaching. So, yeah, they should think about how they need to prepare for the future as well as what's happening now.
They might get left behind.
Perhaps.
Right, okay. Well then, brilliant. Thanks a lot for taking a few minutes out to talk to us. And to our viewers out there, I hope you enjoyed hearing Claire tell us a bit about M-Learning. And stay tuned for the next video.